Hello. I wanted to talk about something specific that I had a conversation with someone special in my life about this whole where we've come as far as humans, as far as a species. And I've always been proud to say the fact that how I got into astrology in the first place, why it's so empowering to me because it's not really knowledge per se, but it's more like I call it like it sounds a little blasphemous for some people, but I'm laughing at it because it's like it's not to me. Um, that it's almost like this thing that astrology is like you hold the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. You know what I mean, right? So the way I see it is um, when it comes to things like where we've come as humans in terms of um, well, many things really, but one thing that came in particular was the topic of, I guess it was a topic of um, health. You can say health, but I don't want to categorize as health. It's kind of everything. Like, so for example, like why, because the conversation was just started, it was revolving around the idea that I brought up that if we go back to things that are natural, when I say natural, I don't just mean like, eating organic and living in homesteads and all that stuff and permaculture and all those things. That's kind of part of it. But it's more like bridging the future, the present, and the past from this perspective of form, in physical form, in this physical reality. So what came to me was this whole, mm, how did we get this far? My thing is that my speculation is, and I truly believe this is can be considered even extra woo-woo for some. I don't know. I don't care anymore. The point is that I believe that with the with the way the astrology explains it is that since the dawn of the ego, the development of the ego, or rather the development and also the discovery of the ego, it's not really what we called it 12,000 years ago, give or take 1,000 years or two. We're the age of Leo, right? Um, with that, you could say beginning or with the inception, so to speak, if that's the right word for it. But of that process of being human, our identification really, um, we came to the point where we are today. I believe what kind of triggered by the age of Taurus. Now, what that means specifically, if you look at it from not only astrological, but sort of medical astrology point of view, is that in the age of Leo, or sorry, in the age of sorry, the age of Taurus, we started, building farms. We started building things. This idea of building was starting to come to mind, and we became settlers, and we had farms. Instead of being roaming about. That was the age of Gemini, right? Age of exploration. Technically, first age of exploration was this like idea that it's like, oh, I have an identity. That was the age of Leo, the eternal child, right? So that means that it just became this sort of ongoing thing after that point. We're just like, but then after that, it started to get announced itself through the age of Cancer. Age of Gemini was like the traveling thing, neighbors. We started realizing, oh, we had neighbors, we had to deal with people, we had to connect with others, we had to communicate. So language was created. But what's the main theme that came to me with this whole where we are today as humans in terms of like all this stuff with like the extreme stuff that's been going on. And I don't watch the news. But um, when it's come to this point where it's just like we have all these craziness going on. Um, I mean, I would say something that started with the pandemic, but it was a reminder of the pandemic was a reminder of how we've come so far, yet so backwards, so to speak. Not out of judgment. It means backwards as in like we really come away from our natural selves. When I say natural, I mean co-created, natural, universal, cosmic, nature, natural selves, where we don't see death as an ending. We see death as like, oh, it's just a different thing. We have this inner knowing and intrinsic knowing that when we die, it's just the end of a form. That's it. Right? Let's call it that way from an esoteric sort of slash spiritual point of view, when it's just like those are the words used, but really what it is just that, this inner knowing that it's like, well, it's not really the end, right? Where we actually kind of, in a way, resemble cultures today that actually celebrate death instead of fear it, instead of having, funerals and all that stuff. And not to say that it's not important today. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's experiences with death and loss and grief and all that stuff. But if you think about it, it does tie into the whole thing where it's like when we discovered that we could settle, we could have farms and all that stuff. There was a certain dependence on settling. So therefore we didn't really move a lot. And therefore when it comes to things like trauma, which usually means that the reason that humans we latch on to trauma more than other species is because not only the ego thing, but rather an unhealthy ego, and more importantly, the attachment to form itself as if this is it, right? That when we started settling, we started becoming like complacent, basically. We started becoming complacent. We started becoming like, okay, well, form must be the reality, right? As you know from astrology, that the the archetypal representation of Taurus is stubbornness. That's a stereotype, but it's like long held things. It's the builder of the zodiac. It's the one that goes like, let's create something out of worth. But it's also tied to self worth. That's the thing, right? Worth. We started realizing about worth, and then we started going into um, this whole thing that we started to kind of, in a way, you can say boundaries were set. That's also from the age of Cancer. Boundaries in a way that was more like, I'm going to do it my way and my way only kind of thing, right? Fuck y'all kind of thing. And this is when conflict started to arise, going to the age of Aries. But if we tie this in with the shadow of Taurus, right, what does that represent? It's seen in the opposite sign in Scorpio. When we don't move, toxins build up in the body. When we don't metabolize, toxins build up in the body. That's represented through Scorpio. So it means that we're not detoxing. So we're just building things up. That includes trauma. That includes the collective trauma that's been going on at least for the past 6,000 years, if not 12,000. So then came the age of Aries, which was like we just had to get rid of it. We just had to all that stuff. But tying this to what the pandemic was showing us is that somehow there's this thing I believe that viruses and bacteria and fungi started to grow more because of all the uh, you can say the aftermath of wars and conquests and bloodshed and all that stuff. But there's something about the blood, and because Aries is ruled by Mars, something to do with blood and inflammation. So when something is inflamed, there's trauma, it's trauma related. But when something is inflamed, there's something going on there biochemically. For all the biochemists out there and microbiologists, virologists, you chime in, okay? But there's something about blood, or rather waste product like dead bodies and all that stuff, that I don't know, there's something about the mycelial network reacting to all that stuff. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I sense this thing where it's just like it was exacerbated, not only s- initiated or triggered by the age of in during the age, not by during the age of Leo, and then exacerbated by the during the age of Aries. Again, notice I say during, not because of. This isn't about like, oh, because of astrology and stuff. There's nothing to blame. It's just it's part of the whole process. That's how we evolve, right? But that's how I feel like the mycelial network would naturally react to it, or microbiological things, viruses, bacteria, fungi, you name it. I think it's called the eukaryotes or something else. No, that's us, right? I forgot. There's earlier branches. If you look at the taxonomy in biology, it goes up further than that. Anyways, so it goes into that, and that's why, and then when the age of Pisces came through, it's almost like this thing where it's like we neglected the whole thing. And Pisces is ruled by Neptune, the modern ruler of Neptune. Although it's about expansion, which is the ruler represented by the ruler of Jupiter, its modern rulers, Neptune, represents epidemics. Okay, and addictions. Okay, hidden things, things that we sweep under the rug. Pisces rules his 12th house. It's all the stuff that is like hidden talents, prisons, hospital, isolation, things, moments of isolation. It's not just spirituality, but it's like things that we kind of like, again, sweep under the rug and ignore and avoid and disown. Shadow work comes in here as well, right? It's karmic. It's really karmic because we repeat things when we bring into the next moment in our lives, or we recycle things when we don't actually heal it. It reuses itself. No, so it's not to say that, recycling and reusing and that stuff that's how we grow. Recycling is basically a form of innovation, which is interesting because Pisces gets that from the archetypal energy of its neighboring sign as an archetype from Aquarius, which is innovation, right? So that's part of the whole process. So it's interesting how this whole thing comes about, right? But the astrology really says it all. So this is my point that I was saying, kind of not the main point, but like an additional point. It's like, this is why I love being an astrologer, because it's like the astrology will say it all. When we go deeper into the astrology of things, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So that's my little spiel for today. Um, how far we've come, um, and how the astrology says it all. And so, what about the future? I mean, if you think about it, what will be the age of, let's see, we're age of Aquarius now, right? Age of, let's say, Capricorn. It goes in this way. It's kind of the trajectory of the nodes, the lunar nodes in astrology, um, um, where it goes clockwise. But from a person's individual perspective or event charts or the individualized like a person or a country or stuff like that, where it's not really about paths. It's weird. It's interesting. It goes counterclockwise. But either way, that to me signifies the timelessness that is actually the outer reality, which is energetic reality, quantum physics, whatever, right? So what was my point? Okay, so the age of Capricorn. But how does that tie into this whole thing? Age of Capricorn, and go further into this one. If you look really deep into the signs and what they represent, you'll see it's like you can even do predictions. The age of Capricorn for me feels like it'll be a time of um, stability. It'll be kind of like a time of um, material peace and acceptance and wisdom already gained from past stages, um, where achievement is shared among humanity. This wisdom that comes in through patience and where success is not about reputation anymore. It's a different definition of reputation. It's a different definition of how we work together as a society. If you're looking at the next 4,000 years, that's the age of Capricorn. Well, after 2,000 years from now, and then we go into the age um, of Sagittarius, which to me I feel will be a great exploration beyond the physical. Like we're already doing it now. It's, weird stuff coming through. But I believe that with the age of Aquarius, it's the one that breaks apart the whole thing and kind of reforms itself through the age of Capricorn, where we'll actually be able to do space travel. That's the age of Aquarius. That's the age of Sagittarius. I believe it's going to be that. I have a huge, strong feeling that it's going to be 4,000 years from now and be like, whoa, like space travel, like literally to different galaxies, like Star Trek, Star Trekky. Okay, it's gonna be like Star Trekky. Um, but as it's gonna be more of a because it's a mutable sign. What it might suggest is a transition into the next fixed archetype, which is the age of Scorpio, which could mean that um, it's really like transmutation and everything. If things were to so-called end, because usually people think Scorpio is the end and all that stuff, it's tied to the eighth house. Um, but it'll be more like a really cathartic approach to um, after exploration. We had already basically come to the end of our current physical reality that's super metaphysical. It's just way beyond we can even imagine at all. At all. Not even imagine. It should be like, whoa. Well, we might even traverse into other universes and other dimensions. I mean, space travel is one thing, but it's like, whoa, interdimensional? Whoa. By the age of Libra, it would already be, we'll come probably almost full circle. It'll be a chance to, it'll be like an actual age of like really relating to each other and really harmonizing with everything and knowing things right off the bat. And it's just going to be harmonious. Um, there'll be certain challenges too, where power will be also let go because it's ruled by Eris. By the time it reaches purity, the age of Virgo, we would have come basically full circle as humans. At least that's what I feel. Currently, that's what I feel. It could change, where everything is just that's done, and we're back to our childlike selves in another age of Leo. So I hope that gave some insights. I don't know what it is. There's something about all this stuff. We could look into the charts even 4,000 years from now, for 6,000, 8,000, you name it. We could look into it, but this is kind of just a little preamble because you can't. It's interesting how you can do it, but it's just I don't know. I could look into it, but we'll see what happens. Message me if you want. You can tap down below if you have anything to say. I think that's it for now. And that's it. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Bye.